Hi, my name is Kate Willers, and this is my Module 9 case study. So just in general, during this case study, I will be working to highlight the concepts of advocating for others and modeling ethical behavior per standards PLO2, CLO2, and CLO3. Which I will go over at the very end in a little more detail. All right, so a quick overview of this case. Starting at the beginning, the reader is introduced to Principal Richard Inman, and he is an administrator and an educator who strives to build relationships with students who are growing up in a community with similar socioeconomic backgrounds as his own. So he relates a lot to these students, especially those who have had a tougher life, a tougher upbringing, specifically James, who has recently had an awesome upswing in positive behavior, and Mr. Inman has spent a significant amount of time with James and his friends. So it is clear that James's day-to-day behavior has been influenced by Mr. Inman for the better. Later in the day that is being described in the case study, James is seen by a teacher giving something to another student in the hallway. The teacher thinks this may be drug-related, and so she reports it to Richard. And a second student that is involved, David Ramos, is also seen interacting with James and taking an item from him. So Richard calls David to the office, and David is very, very nervous most likely due to the presence of the school resource officer also in Richard's office with him. So Richard knows James much better than he knows David. He's seen James grow up and change for the better. He doesn't know much about David other than he is mostly mild-mannered and an honor student, plays trombone in the band, and he just doesn't have much of a background with this student, David. So, some bias and possibilities for bias and favoritism that come into play at this point involve James's teacher seeing an exchange. She doesn't know that it's drugs. She sees that it looks suspicious, but it leads me to wonder what looks suspicious about it. I would have probably pursued that comment a little bit further with the teacher. You obviously want to make sure that the teacher also feels safe and heard and listened to, but also trying to get a little bit more information from the teacher and possibly from the students before calling in the school resource officer, I think would be important in this kind of situation. Richard, also not knowing David, may have the possible tendency to not treat him with as much fairness as James, who he has already created a relationship with. And also in this case study, the relationship that the school resource officer may have with either of the students is not yet detailed. But David being nervous around this officer in this situation may lead the reader to believe that there's not an established relationship, or it may not be a positive relationship. But again, that is not detailed or shown. Once David, James, and the police officer are in Richard's office, Richard asks the boys to explain what has gone on in this situation. Neither say anything. Richard believes later due to the presence of the police officer, but then David is searched and a pair of brass knuckles are found. David is handcuffed by the police officer, but James admits that he had given the weapon to David. Richard is very, very proud of James for this admission. This was not something that James maybe would have done prior to this situation. But then Richard feels disappointed in James in this situation, and also guilty for putting both of the boys in this position with the school resource officer. So that leads an unbiased reader to just question why the police officer had to be in the office for this initial interview. It may have been for the case of fairness and ethical behavior. He maybe knew that he needed a second person in the room just for liability reasons, possibly. But then he says he regrets having the police officer in the room. And I think that's probably due to the fact that David is obviously very nervous. And as I stated here, technically not taking the correct legal action would eventually be unethical on Richard's part. Wouldn't be following the legal rules in this situation. Also leads to another ethical point that David, even though he doesn't have a prior record necessarily, he was still storing an illegal weapon for another student. Whether it was his or not, whether he was asked to or not, he still agreed to do it. Even though James admits to coercing the student into this, it doesn't matter in the policy making whether the student was coerced or not, or whether it was initiated by another student or not. The rules state that this was an illegal weapon, and David was keeping it. So even though James is acting ethically and being trustworthy, this does not help his case or David's, just due to the legal parameters that they're dealing with here. So after this admission by James, both of the boys are handcuffed, and the school resource officer explains that both will be taken to an alternative education program or a juvenile detention center, because the school board in the school district has a zero tolerance policy for illegal weapons on campus. Richard was surprised by this. He was surprised that both students were being severely punished for this situation, and felt at fault for putting them there. Both of the boys are taken to a youth detention center, and mothers were contacted. James's mother was a bit callous in her response, leaving him to stay there to learn his lesson. So it can be assumed that James's mother was maybe not as involved in the day-to-day operations of things, and David's mother shows up to the school almost immediately confused and upset. Richard feels like he didn't do enough to advocate for his students. But according to many ethical beliefs, following the policy and the law was the right thing to do. He felt that he had set up his students to fail by calling them in and having the police officer in there, but technically he acted in an ethical fashion. Though James has a history of prior behavior issues and seems to have instigated the situation, David is not completely innocent. He did go along with this plan, whether he was coerced or not, and that is the ethical decision would be to punish both of them, which is what is expected of Richard in this situation. Richard is required to fill out paperwork to have both of the boys expelled once they are at the juvenile detention center. Richard decides on his own that David is an innocent victim, and he knows of James's intimidation tactics on those he perceives as weak. He decides to continue with James's punishment, but does not move forward with David's, even though he is threatened with disciplinary action. He accepts it and moves forward, accepting the official reprimand from the board. I viewed this as, in Richard's mind, a case of equity versus equality. He felt that James could handle the punishment better than David, whether that is right or wrong. Those were his feelings in the situation. And he didn't want to ruin David's life through this punishment. But at this point, it feels as though James is sort of left out to dry, for better or worse, ethically or not. So some of my choices in the position of an administrator, ways that I would promote the academic and personal well-being of each student. I would listen to the teacher, each student and adult, I would listen to the teacher, make sure that that individual felt heard, and then speak individually with each student, and then involve the SRO depending on the answers of each student. I think acknowledging the challenges and struggles of each individual student in this situation are important. James has different struggles than David, but they both deserve to be equally heard and treated in fair ways. There was a relationship developed with James that I felt was kind of pushed to the back burner, and I think the potential and the improvement seen in James should have been taken into consideration more in this decision. I think relationships with students and teachers from a position of an administrator are so important and create open channels of communication that lead to better decision making from all involved and more positive motivation from all involved. And then I also think it's important to not live on an island. Listen to your gut, trust your gut, but also look for feedback from people around you who you trust. And that will also promote more positive relationships and more positive communication in a school setting. Here I have my standards and ethics, or my standard 2 ethics and professional norms. And these are all pretty straightforward, so I will let you look at these without wasting more of my 15-minute talking time. So as I stated in the last few slides, I think just communication, steps that should be taken to ensure that others are acting ethically. Lines of communication should be open. Trustworthiness should be there. Developing relationships and making sure that there is a level of trust between administrators and teachers, teachers and students, administrators and students, across the board. And people are more likely to act ethically if they feel like they are being held responsible for their actions. When you recognize ethics have been breached, and appropriate actions to take, conversations, making very clear the rules in that specific building and community and what legal action has to be necessary, and making sure that is very clear. Same with myself. Unethical behavior that may adversely affect students and adults. I think in those kinds of situations, again, seeing each situation, each person as individual, but also knowing that staying consistent is important, but not every single rule has to be set in stone for each person, and having some wiggle room and making those decisions very, very clear. And just, again, policies, making sure policies are very clear, but also knowing that each situation has its individual challenges, and again, acknowledging the individual person. Equity and equality are different, and addressing that in every situation is very, very important. And just promoting ethical behavior, acting ethically at all times, and putting it out there and making sure those around you know what your rules are and how you view ethics and how you view the law, and making that very clear at all times. Thank you.